And if you come on a Thursday, oops, I'll tell you about this later. Okay, we sort of summarized. I usually do this on the tape, but I'm not going to do it on the tape. I did it really for those of you who have not been here for the earlier sessions. Summarize where we're at. Where we're at now is we're talking about statements. If a judge looks down at you and says to you, counsel, you may cross-examine, you can go about it in one of, they're not going to be shocked, 3 ways. There's 3 is the rest of your life. There's always going to be 3. You can do it in one of 3 ways. Can't you? Stop and think about it. Witness on the stand, and you're sitting in my Dumbo seat there, perjuring Pete. You didn't know that, but you're there. And so now I've got to cross-examine perjuring Pete. And I can go about this in 3 ways, can I not? But now here's the interesting thing. Before I explain the 3 ways to you, you know them, but you've never thought of it this way. Before I explain them to you, let me tell you that these 3 ways, very interestingly, and you won't read this in any books or find it anyplace else, these 3 ways also tell us the history of cross-examination. The entire history of cross-examination is going to be captured in the 3 ways that you can go about cross-examination. So what's the first thing you can do as a cross-examiner? I can ask the witness a question, can I not? Did you go to the store? That's a question. Or I can make it an open-ended question. Why did you go to the store? Can we do that in cross-examination? Yeah. Technically speaking, I'm asking about what we can do and get away with, and it's proper legally. We can ask questions, okay? We can indeed ask open-ended questions. Have we, so far in our little conversations, have we run into an open-ended question? Yes. Who asked it? None other than Abraham Lincoln, remember? If you didn't see him bite the nose off, how do you know he bit it off? That's an open-ended question, okay? Now, that's one way we can go about cross-examination. Will you ever use a question possibly, and that's another story. We won't have time, I don't think, to go into that, but there is one exception when I allow the asking of a simple question. But you'll never ask, let's use this rule. No questions on cross-examination, open-ended or otherwise, okay? Why? Well, this isn't the time for the Discovery Channel. This isn't the time to find out what the hell this case is all about. Huh? Yeah, Agent Ephraim Zimbalist Jr., do you know anything else about my defendant here you'd like to share with the jury? Yeah, come on. That stuff, that's horrible, okay? So we don't ask questions on cross-examination. Well, I don't want you to ever ask a question on cross unless you become a prosecutor. Then ask all you want. No, I'm picking on somebody in here, and pleasantly so. But you don't. Anybody in here ever asks a question, I will come back and eat your firstborn, okay? Because this is not what we do. Why do we not ask questions? Let's figure it out. Well, first of all, we have been talking about this control thing. We like control. It's not our full goal, mind you, but we want to get control of the witness. Well, if you ask a question, you have no control at all of the witness once you ask the question, of course. Number 2, if you ask a question, you're abrogating. That's a good word, by the way, isn't it? Yeah. You're abrogating your right to be the storyteller. And there can only be one storyteller, and that's going to be you. And if you start asking questions, you're turning over to perjuring Pete the right to be the storyteller, and we don't want that. We are the storyteller, not perjuring Pete, okay? And if you ask questions, you're saying you're the story. And thirdly, If you ask questions, you're ennobling this witness. You're accrediting this witness. You're, in effect, telling the jury, hey, I'm going to ask this man a question. And I'm telling you, you listen to his answer because, this is coming from the burning bush now. There you go. Well, what did you see? That kind of stuff. You're ennobling the witness. And when we cross-examine, that's exactly not what we want to do, is ennoble or accredit the witness, right? So we don't ask questions. I'll tie up the history part for you when we're finished, right? Okay, what's the second thing we can do as a cross-examiner? We can ask use the traditional leading question. You went to the store. Isn't that correct? Huh? Now, we can use that, can we not? Yes. Is that it's a major improvement, a wonderful improvement. It's going to improve our control, obviously, if we use the traditional leading question. So it's an advancement. It's tremendous advancement. Remind me, by the way, to tie this up historically before I'm finished. Okay? But are we going to use the traditional? No, we're not going to use the traditional leading question. Why? Because you don't see it. I know they do, though, you see. I am waving. Tell them what I'm waving. A red flag, yeah. You don't see it, do you?
No, sir.
Well, it's there. Now you start seeing it. See it now? Okay, red flag, yeah. Now, that red flag means that what I'm about to tell you is contrary to the conventional wisdom. Huh? Contrary to what most people teach you about cross-examination. I've got a lot of things that are contrary to the conventional wisdom. We all already know that, don't we? So I wave a red flag, and I tell you we are not going to use the traditional leading question. Well, why not? Got to have reasons why you're not going to use it. Of course. How many reasons do you suppose we will have why we're not going to use it? 3, of course. You got the program. And what are those? Let me give them to you in inverse order of importance. The least important first, and then moving on to the most important, okay? The reason we do not usually, remember I said yesterday, we're going to cover this, and I said we'd cover it 14 minutes from then. We never got to it. I misspoke, okay? But anyway, we're covering it right now. We don't use leading questions. First reason is, if you use leading questions, you can never get what we had yesterday, one-word cross. Remember that beautiful thing, one-word cross? You'll never get one-word cross if you use leading questions. How does it come out? Green. Isn't that correct? That doesn't work to one word. You see it? So it'll never work as one-word cross if you use a leading question. Second reason we don't use leading questions, is leading questions bespeak law speak, okay? Stop and think of this just for a moment. What the heck do you think you sound like when you're using leading questions? You went to the store, isn't that correct? Yeah. You bought some potatoes, isn't that correct? You bought some tomatoes, isn't that correct? You bought some apples, isn't that correct? What the heck do you think you sound like? You sound like a lawyer. And lawyers are not well liked. You know that, and I know that, okay? We're right below sneeze screens in the list of things that people dislike. And why do they dislike lawyers? They dislike us lawyers because in major part of the way we talk. Isn't that correct? That behind everything. Isn't that correct? Isn't that correct? That's legal speak. And we want, as lawyers, to avoid legal speak. We had a rule here yesterday. We came up with Rule 11, and we said we speak in courtrooms, the way one speaks in a bar. A nice bar, carpeting bar, okay? But that was our Rule 11 yesterday, right? Well, you don't go into the bar and start talking like that. Yeah. Are you going to order a drink? Isn't that correct? Yeah. Are you going to buy me a drink? Isn't that correct? Hey, you don't talk like that. Come on. So we get rid of it for the second reason. And the third and the most important reason we get rid of the traditional leading question is because it doesn't lend itself to storytelling. Here we come. You see, we're coming around the circle back to these important considerations that we singled out as being important at the beginning. And storytelling is critical. We've got to be great storytellers, to be good trial lawyers. And if you start using "isn't that correct," you're not going to be a good storyteller. Let me tell you something. Usually I don't have time to do this, but I will. I came about this. So many things you come about, you learn by mistake. And many other things, by the way, you learn by teaching. When I teach bright people like you, I always take home a couple of gems, a couple of added bits of information to add. But you learn by teaching. Years ago, many years ago, I was a young lawyer then. I'm young now, but I was a younger lawyer then, and I was honored by being a member of the very first faculty at the National Criminal Defense College. I think, apropos our conversation of yesterday, I probably was about 13 or 14 at the time. And I went down there to teach. It was down in Texas, and I went down there to teach, and lo and behold, all the greats and near greats of the criminal defense bar were down there. Oh my God, the legend of wonderful lawyers that were down there were incredible. And we teach all day, long days we teach, and needless to say, what do you suppose we do at night after the faculty meeting? Well, we'd repair, I hate to tell you this, but we'd probably repair the gin mill someplace. Why? To practice talking like lawyers, But anyway, we'd go to a gin mill, and we'd sit around and we'd have some drinks. And what happens when a bunch of criminal defense lawyers are having drinks? The stories come out. What kind of stories? You know. Let me tell you about the case I tried a year ago, and I cross-examined this witness, and I did X, Y, Z. And these great lawyers would regale us with stories of their successes. Well, what were their successes? Well, not unlike Perry Mason, they all involved cross-examination. Nobody told us about their opening statement or closing argument. There's certainly never a direct examination. It was in cross, I did this and I did that to the witness. And I sat there as a young tenderfoot, and I sat there and listened. Oh, God, this was wonderful. I was sitting at the feet of the masters, and I was learning from them. But there was something interesting that I never fully appreciated then, and it took me a long time to come to appreciate. I noticed when they were telling us the stories, they'd say, "Now I put that witness on the witness was on the stand, and I cross-examined him, and I said to him, 'You went to the store. You bought some tomatoes. You bought some potatoes.'" And that's the way they told it to us, right? And we all sat there. Now, the weird thing was, when that lawyer, great lawyers they were, but when that lawyer actually did that cross-examination, is that the way? No. When that lawyer the next day did the demo cross-examination for all of us, did he do it that way? No. How did he do it in the real trial? How did he do it when he did his demo? He did it like this. "You went to the store. Isn't that correct?" Because that was the state of the art at the time. Matter of fact, that was really an advanced state of the art at the time, the traditional leading question. And when he did his demo the next day, it was, "You went to the store. Isn't that correct?" Huh? And, I never understood it. Well, I never paid much attention to it till later when I started developing this system that I'm sharing with you now. And all of a sudden, boom, there's the tongue of fire coming down to me, wisdom suddenly, right? And it dawned on me, why were they, when they told us, they left out the taglines. But when they did it in court or in a demonstration, they used the taglines. Why do you suppose they did this? Instinct. Instinctively, these people knew that they had this audience of people, and they wanted to tell us what? A story. And you don't tell stories. What, isn't that correct, and isn't that a fact, and all that crap. You don't tell stories. Oh, think of it yourself. You've put your child, in my instance, my grandchild, on my knee. Deirdre, get up here. I want to tell you a story. Deirdre, there once was a little girl who lived in the woods. Isn't that correct? And this little girl lived in the woods, saw a house. Isn't that correct? And the house was owned by 3 bears. Isn't that correct? Come on, we don't do it that way. You know, it's not the way to tell a story. So we're going to, you see it now, the red flag, though, we're going to get rid of that, the traditional leading question. Well, what does that leave us? It leaves us the third and final option. And what is the third and final option? The use of statements. And this may be, well, this not maybe, it is. This is critically important to how you do cross-examination. You will use statements. You went to the store. Do you see it? A simple statement. Now, why do we use statements? Number one, we saw this yesterday. You're going to have to, prudence of a doubt, believe us when we say this, but if you use statements, we know you can do one-word cross, because we did it yesterday, right? So we can do one-word cross. We've got rid of the legal speak, the problem with the traditional leading question, and more importantly, this lends itself to our storytelling. We don't have all that crap in there. It lends itself. So we're going to use statements. Now, a little aside here. 80% of the people that do this have no problem. But about 20% have a problem. I suspect you people will not, but let's address the possibility. Watch how you do the statement. There are obviously 2 ways to do the statement, aren't they? And one way is, you went to the store? That's not the way to do it. That sounds more like a question, you see. So it's not, you went to the store, you know, you're shocked at, you're telling them, you went to the store. You follow me? That's the way you use the statement. Now let's pause for just a moment and talk about history. I love history. I came down here to Stetson. And, they were very kind to me, and they gave me a wonderful award, and I was required to give a little talk, and which I, needless to say, I enjoyed. And I decided to give a talk on the history of the teaching of trial advocacy. Where better to give it than Stetson? You know, there's no school in the history of the world that has ever done a better job of teaching trial ad than right here. Well, I got into this, and I suddenly discovered something rather amazing that I'd never thought of before. It's amazing, you know, if you stay sober long enough, you can figure out things. And I figured something out. And I figured out that cross-examination is like everything else. It's had a history. And at the time, right leading up to this, I had, of necessity or whatever, I had read or been reading a lot of old transcripts. Why? Because, well, one, I was getting ready to defend Wyatt Earp in the shootout at the OK Corral. So I had to go back, and there was no trial, but there was a 2 days short of a month preliminary hearing in the Wyatt Earp case out in Arizona. And so I had to read that, you know, the transcript of that. And I'd gone back, I read, obviously I'd read a lot of Clarence Darrow stuff. Remind me to tell you if I can think of the name, but I won't. Great one on the Sweet case in Detroit. That may be the best of all of them. But I read his cross-examination of William Jennings Bryant in the Scopes case and all the rest of it. But I had reason to read a lot of old transcripts, okay? I was going to go into a couple of others, but one of them aggravates me when I go into it, so I probably, Carson's cross-examination of, well, I won't go into it because it aggravates me. Carson was an ass. And so I don't like him, and I get aggravated when I hear people say the greatest cross-examination ever. He cross-examined Oscar Wilde, and that was the greatest cross-examination in my butt. But I shouldn't do that, but I get angered when I think of that. But anyway, I read that. I read a lot of them. And what did I discover when I read them? You know how they did cross-examinations in those days? We saw it. Abraham Lincoln. Questions, open-ended questions included. Cross-examination was a series of questions, including open-ended questions. That's the start of cross-examination. And no, we've just said we're never going to use that. We don't want to lose our firstborn to my appetite, so we're certainly not going to do that, right? Well, now, that was the way it was done. And then all of a sudden, then, I haven't been able to quite center in on this. I need one of you brilliant students to help me work on this, but somewhere along the line, and I'll come close on this, but not close enough, but they came into the thought of the leading question, the traditional leading question. I found books on trial, are they horrible books, by the way, books on trial advocacy written in the 30s, and they make mention of leading questions. But they don't advocate the use of them, and as a matter of fact, they say you'd only use these if you had a particularly difficult, obstreperous witness, So they don't advocate, and lawyers didn't use them, the traditional. And all of a sudden, the traditional leading question came in, and to the best I can figure out, it happened in the very early 70s. Well, if it happened in the early 70s, who happened it? Who started it? That was terrible syntax, but it makes my point. Most probably, although I can't be sure of this, most probably NITA is the one. They started teaching in 72. It was the first year of the NITA program. And by the way, that was the first time anybody was ever taught trial advocacy. Can you believe that? What you people are doing and doing so well didn't start until 72, okay? NITA commendably started it, and the National Criminal Defense College started in 73. And with the tremendous people they had down there teaching, I suspect they got into it right away too. But so it's NITA and most probably the college also that brought the traditional leading question into play, okay? And that brought in the "you went to the store, isn't that correct?" type of thing, okay? And that was a major breakthrough. And that was the way the really sophisticated teachers of trial advocacy, and there weren't many of them in those days, were teaching it, was the traditional leading question, okay? So that was a great breakthrough, and wonderful breakthrough. And now, all of a sudden, here I am coming along from, a public defender, no less, out of Chicago, and I'm telling you, and I started my thing about 20 years ago, I'm telling you, no more traditional leading questions. I'm telling you, you use statements, and I told you why. And this is the third stage of cross-examination, and it's where you want to be, where you should be. Now, somebody else, maybe one of you, will come up with something even better in another 10 years, 20 years, or whatever. I don't know what the hell it could be, but in any event, do it, okay? But we're into statements. Statements. Very different, but into statements. Now, okay, MacCarthy, we're into statements. Well, here, let me give you this one. We got a little time here. Well, not a lot. We got a little time, though. Let me give you this. What do you think of this? Let me throw it out to you. You went to the store to buy... Oh, I screwed it all up. Try it once more, MacCarthy. You went to the store to buy toothpaste and magazines. What do you think of that? What was that? Oh, you You kids are sorry. Kids, you're not kids. You're bright. Well, it was a statement, wasn't it? I've been advocating. Do you like that statement?
No.
You know what? It's so beautiful to deal with you people. Oh, God, I had an experience I was just telling Ellen about yesterday with you guys where you blew me right out of my chair with what you know and did. You know, God bless you. Good. Okay. It's a statement, yes. Do we like the idea that it's a statement? Yeah. But why don't we like it as a statement? It's too, well, you said compound, right? But it's too long. We were talking about being short because then the witness will be short, and that's too long. You went to the store to buy toothpaste and magazines. It's too long, okay? It's absolutely too long. By the way, some people teach, I think it's wrong, 1 fact per question. 1 fact per question doesn't sing to me, okay? 1 fact, the fact is you went to the store to buy something. That's even too long. And you don't ask questions. We're going to use statements. So 1 fact per question is, I think, misspoken, okay? But it's too long. And now, I'm going to tell you about the report card you get. Everybody that uses this system gets a report card. At the end of the day, let me see your report card. That's damn good. Keep it up. You're going to be a trial lawyer. You, right there. Let me see yours. Dentistry, go into it. You're never going to be a trial lawyer. I can look at the report cards and tell you how well you did. Why? Because you get graded every time you open your mouth. And the grades are not dissimilar from those you received in 1st and 2nd grade. Every time the witness says yes, nothing more, just yes, you get a gold star. Every time the witness says no, and no is the intended answer, you get a silver star. And every time the witness is a Cato Kaland or our former Attorney General Gonzalez, either one of those two, and says, I don't know. Gonzalez a little more, I don't recall. But anytime the witness says, I don't know or I don't recall, you get a bronze star. So those are the 3 good grades you can get on your report card. Anything else, you'll get a bad mark at the bottom of your report card, okay? And that's as simple. Now, who's the best cross-examiner at the end of the day? The one with the most stars, preferably gold. It's as simple as that. So I want to get, you went to the store to buy toothpaste and magazines. I want to get more gold stars. How many gold stars do you suppose I want to get? 3. Yeah, that's not the right answer here. This is the second time 3 was not the right answer, but it's always a good shot. I want to get 40 or 50 gold stars, don't I? The more, the better. So if I do the cross-examination of you, it'll go something like this. Oh, by the way, unfortunately, we don't have a good set of facts here, so it's going to sound a little bit like a Shaggy Dog story. So some of those things that one of your noted professors by the name of Charlie Rose tells, with no punchlines to the stories. But here we go. I always got to pick on him because I like him. So anyway, here we go. Now, remember the transition, kiddos? Remember it was so important? I want to ask you some questions about what you did when you got ready to go to the store. You understand?
Yes.
Okay. You walked out to your car?
Yes.
Yeah. Got in the car?
Yes.
Put the key in the ignition?
Yes.
Yeah. Started to drive?
Yes.
You drove to a store?
Yes.
Grocery store?
Yes.
Now, see, you see the system coming back? It's beautiful. Yeah. Got out of your car?
Yes.
You took the key with you?
Yeah.
And you see the body language we're acting this. By the way, I object, Your Honor. She's testifying with her hand. Oh, come on. What idiot is going to grant that objection? Or make it, no less, grant it. But anyway, and you went into the store.
Yes.
You went over to the toothpaste counter.
Yeah.
And you picked up some toothpaste.
Yes.
You took it over to the magazine counter.
Yeah, I was gonna get both magazine and toothpaste.
You took it over to the magazine counter.
Yes.
We're going to get to that in a moment, gang. Okay. And you looked at the magazines.
Yes.
And you first picked up one magazine.
Yes.
Then you picked up another magazine.
Yes.
And now you walked over to the checkout counter.
Yes.
And you put the magazines on the counter.
Yes.
Both of them.
Yes.
And the toothpaste on the counter.
Yes.
And there was a lady behind the counter.
Yes.
And you talked to her.
Yes.
And she talked to you.
Yes.
And you paid her.
Yes.
You paid her for the magazines.
Yes.
For both magazines.
Yes.
And you paid her for the toothpaste.
Yes.
And you picked them up.
Yes.
And you left the store.
Yes.
Now, stop. Do you see it? How many gold stars did I get there? I don't know. I'm going to guess 40 or so. And you say to me, now, wait a minute, MacCarthy, Shaggy Dog story. And it was, unfortunately, because we don't have facts. But why would you do that? Why would you do that? And this is one of the great sins of young lawyers. Young lawyers want to jump right in to get where they want to go. You can't do that when you're a storyteller. You've got to milk these things. You've got to take it slow. Take it slow to develop this stuff. But look what I have done. You say, well, yeah, you didn't do much for me. Well, I did. Because I'll tell you what I have done. Number one, I have started toilet training the puppy. When you're cross-examining, we're going to get into this in a moment, your job is to toilet train the puppy. And I started the toilet training of the puppy so that the puppy would say nothing but, yes, 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 arf, arf, arf. And did you hear it? One time he defied me, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. But other than that, it was all, yeah. Isn't that what we want, remember? Okay, do you see it, what we want? Now, secondly, and even more importantly, but people don't think about this. Oh, and you had a great case down here in Florida where this came to fore, but secondly, what do you suppose my jury over here is thinking when everything I say to you, you answer yes? What's happening to my credibility? It's going up over the ceiling, right? My credibility is being developed. You had a big case in Miami. Oh, God, I wish I knew how many years ago. I'm going to guess 4 or 5 years ago, when two not good, but two incredible criminal defense lawyers defended this case. A fellow by the name of Albert Krieger, and who I'm going down tomorrow to do a program with, by the way, and Roy Black. Two of the finest criminal defense lawyers you would ever find in your life are these two. And they represented, and I can put it where it's at, two of the worst drug dealers in the history of the United States. And if I told you that their theory of the case, you would laugh. It was ridiculous. It was so bad, okay? And they tried the case. Now, these two are raw talent, okay? They tried the case, and the jury came back. Judge Hovler was the judge, and the jury came back and found the two defendants not guilty. Oh, by the way, I shouldn't talk about that. I'm going to the hell with it. Let's let it all fly out. That evening after the not guilty, a dastardly thing happened. The U.S. attorney, who I am told by a lot of people I know, I've never met him, but I'm told he was a decent and good man, okay? But his tenure as U.S. attorney ended in what he did that night. He went into a strip bar and he bit one of the strippers on a strange part of her anatomy, okay? But he bit a stripper. Was that why he lost his job? No. U.S. attorneys are allowed to do that. But no, he lost it because he used a government credit card to pay for all the champagne and everything. But that's how upset this poor soul was, okay? The two young prosecutors, two competent, able guys, they were upset, obviously. But Judge Hovler allowed people to talk to the jury, the counsel. And they said to the jury, how did you find him not guilty? Why? And the jury said, in effect, Mr. Krieger and Black, everything they said was always answered yes. So anything they said, that was coming from the burning bush. And these two guys walked on that case, okay? So you see what you can do with this. You're going to toilet train the puppy, and you're going to also toilet train the puppy. You're going to build up your credibility, and finally, you're going to be telling a story. And we like to tell stories because people will listen. Even to that shaggy dog story, people will listen, okay? So you accomplish that through statements. Now, stop. MacCarthy, this all sounds well and good, but when I go back to East Jesus, Florida, or wherever the hell it is, am I going to have a problem? Is my opponent going to say, Your Honor, I object, she's not asking questions? Well, if you got some idiot that's going to say, I object, she's moving her head, you might get that objection, okay? Well, or are you going to run it? Well, actually, when I divined this system, as I say, 20-some years ago, this is where I thought we'd really run into the problems. I thought we'd get a lot of people, object, Your Honor, she's not asking questions, that kind of crap, okay? It really didn't even happen much then, and it happens so infrequently now, it's ridiculous. Why? Because, well, I told you earlier, everybody's using this, not everybody, but a lot of people are using this system. So we don't see the objections, okay? Well, now, are you going to get them? Probably not. Why not in the first instance? Your opponent says, oh my God, I don't like this. Look what she's doing. She's killing our witness. Yeah, well, object. Well, on what grounds? I don't know what grounds. Just object, damn it. We can't let this go on. They don't know what to object to. The most sophisticated of them will say, Your Honor, I object. She's not asking questions, okay? Number two, judges. Judges love this system. I have demonstrated it before probably 24 judges, individual judges throughout the United States over the years, and at one time before all the judges of the Seventh Circuit, the circuit I'm in, at an annual meeting, I demonstrated this, okay? Judges love this system. Why do they love it? Because judges, by the way, you may not think so, but it's true. They are susceptible of being bored as well. They don't want to be bored, and this system takes the board. It moves things along. You've got to be prepared to do it, but it moves things along. Judges like that. Everybody likes it. The jury will like it. So judges like this system. As I say, I've demonstrated before a lot, including one justice of the United States Supreme Court. Very bright justice, I might add. But in any event, they like this. They like the system. And thirdly, there is case law supporting the use of a statement as a proper form of leading question, okay? There are two cases, they're in the outline. The first is, now let's see how bright you people are. You're bright in trial ad. Let's see your knowledge of substantive law. The case that I cite is Ohio versus Roberts, is the first case I cite in support of the use of a statement as a proper leading question, okay? Now, does anybody in here, I'm looking for somebody bright, see a flaw in my citing Ohio versus Roberts? Oh, you know, pardon me?
It was overturned by Crawford.
Oh, taking you back with me in my luggage. It was overruled by Crawford, right? Justice Scalia's opinion in Crawford overruled Ohio versus Roberts. But on a good note, the portion I want of Ohio versus Roberts wasn't touched by being overruled, where they talk about, you know, what you can do and how you can cross-examine. But yeah, it was overruled. And someday over a beer, I'll tell you a little bit about the origins of the Crawford case. One of the best opinions I have read in I don't know how long, okay, from a justice we wouldn't expect to write. I guess we would, though. You know, the man is exceptionally bright, okay? But anyway, it was overruled, but now, and besides, there's another case. It's all in this outline that you're going to have. See, isn't it much better when you don't have to write? The Matheson case. Matheson is a I give you the site, but I don't carry stuff with me. But the Matheson case is a civil case out of Utah, and it actually has better language in it than Ohio versus Roberts. But the bottom proposition of this is that this is a proper method. It's a method not dissimilar from the traditional leading question. But stop for just a second. Common sense tells us this, doesn't it? Common sense. Your Honor, she's not asking questions. Well, okay, what happens? Let's go into the courtroom where you people marvel. Let's go into the courtroom, and all of a sudden you're sitting there, you're doing your cross-examination, right? And your opponent says, Your Honor, I object. She's not asking questions. We're going to go back to it. Your person's going to object again. What do? You look at the judge. You look very judicial this morning, very stern and judicial, okay? And here's the judge. When you get the objection, this objection or any objection, okay? You immediately look at the judge and get Rule 37 moving, right? And you look at the judge with your head going and you say, as Your Honor well knows. Those are the magic words. Now, unfortunately, you can't just say, as Your Honor well knows, rule for me. That's not going to work, okay? Unless you become a prosecutor, young man. Then, as Your Honor well knows, I want to be governor. Rule for me, and they may. But otherwise, you've got to give them a reason, right? So, what are you going to do? As Your Honor well knows, in Ohio versus Roberts, the United States Supreme Court said this is not only the proper, but the only way to cross-examine. You think you'll win then? Yes, you will. Because judges, they're impressed when you mention the Supreme Court. Or the Mickelson case, as the case may be, because you may get a judge that knew what you just knew, okay, about Crawford. But that's what you do. I know, Terry, that sounds great, but, we're going to come out, we're going to be young lawyers and not experienced, and we're going to be in the heat of a trial, and our opponent's going to say, Your Honor, I object, he's not asking questions. And you say, that big guy from Chicago told us just what to do, and remember it involved nodding the head, but I don't remember what he told us to do. And so you won't say anything. And there's the judge, and the judge sustains the, this will not happen often. But what happens in the worst scenario, okay? Don't you want to be equipped to handle that too? Sure. So what happens in the worst scenario? You're the judge. Let's do this. Let's put this together. Witness, okay? Yours is a cameo role. Don't worry about it. Witness, opponent, I'm sorry. Opponent, okay? Witness, our little players. I'm picking the people in the front. Witness, opponent, judge. You got it? Here's the deal. I'm going to put something to him, and you are going to say, Your Honor, I object. He's not asking questions. Do it on the first one because we want to move on, okay? And here we go. And then, and by the way, I'm not going to do this, so you're going to say, sustained. You got your rule. Everybody got their thing, and watch how we stop these idiots from ever doing this again, okay? We don't want them transgressing our right to try a case. This is how we stop them. Ready? Okay. Murphy's Bar. You weren't here for Murphy's Bar. That's all right. You saw a car.
Objection, Your Honor. He's not asking a question.
Sustained. I'm not going to have that in my courtroom.
Now, by the way, how many of you now say, oh, thank you, Your Honor, after he just ruled against you? I screwed that up on you. But once more, you saw a car.
Objection. He's not asking a question.
Sustained.
Okay. A convertible. Right?
Yes.
Green. Right?
Yes.
Pontiac. Right?
Yes.
And you knew the driver. Right?
Yes.
And that was Clancy. Right? And there was a passenger in the car.
Yes.
Do you want to object again? No. Why? Because you look like an all-American ass. And by the way, if you have to run for re-election, you're not going to looking very good either, okay? Do you see it? Now, make sure, though, that when you do that, you direct, you're still looking good with you saw a car with him. And then you come over, look at the idiot, and go, right, with a little bit of emphasis. And the jury says, that guy is an idiot. He's forcing us to play Simon Says, and we don't, and it'll, that'll get rid of it. I have 9 transcripts. I know most of them for some years ago, because people don't object anymore, but 9 transcripts where this happened. And once they did the right thing, the objection was never made again. And it wouldn't be. Common sense, you look like an ass, you see? Okay. Now, so you shouldn't have a problem using the statement. Oh boy. Okay. Let's jump away. I was going to do some other stuff on your statement, but we've got enough. Let's take the last one. I've got one more thing to talk to you about. And with this, you'll be able to go ahead and do cross-examinations like nobody. You ready? Here's the last thing. We want to talk a little bit about control. Now, we know now that we want to control the witness, of course, but to control the witness, we're going to control them with our system. Our system of short statements is going to control this witness. That's how we're going to do it, okay? Well, yeah, but Terry, in truth, you even said this earlier, any witness that wants can decide not to give us control. Remember when my guy in the store tried to give me a little bit of tinkle, right? Anybody can deny giving, and we know that. So what do we do when we get an intractable witness? We get a witness that doesn't want to play our game, that doesn't want to simply say, yes, yes, arf, arf, arf. How do we handle them? Well, there's been many ways suggested by lawyers, including Irv Younger. Irv's way is horrible, by the way, but and most of the ways that I've heard suggested, I don't really care for. Truth be known, okay? There are some very good ones. If you got my book, you can read all about them. But the really good ones that I've seen are mainly the product of the lawyer using them. There are some incredible lawyers in this country, and they use systems that are part and parcel of their personalities. Jerry Spence uses the blackboard. I told you that yesterday. And he goes up to the blackboard and he writes down his statement on the blackboard. That's what I asked you, but that's not what you're... But he can do that because he's got the pizzazz. There's a lawyer, an incredible lawyer, out in San Diego. And young lady, you remind me something of her. Her name is Juanita Brooks. And she was a student of mine 1,000 years ago. I shouldn't say that. But anyway, Juanita is a brilliant lawyer. And she's got a way that's very, very effective. As a matter of fact, my son, I have one son who is a public defender. I have 2 sons who are trial lawyers, and they're both really good. But I have one's a public defender, and he uses Juanita's method a lot. I don't use it. I don't use it because I don't fit it. Juanita's a very attractive young lady, okay? And she has got all the charm in the world. I don't have all that charm. I'm certainly not a petite, attractive young lady, okay? But Juanita's way of doing it's the only other one I ever really mention. And Jerry's once in a while. There's a couple of others. There's a lawyer out of Oklahoma, Garvin Isaacs, has got a pretty effective way. But again, all of these ways fit their personalities. Juanita will do it this way. I share it with you because you could do it beautifully, okay? And she'll look at the witness, perjury, beat, and say, you saw a car. And the witness will tinkle, 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 not answer, right? And Juanita will say, oh, I'm sorry, sir. I am so sorry. I misled you. You didn't understand. It's my fault. Let me try again. You saw a car. It is incredible the way she does that, okay? But that's Juanita. My son Terry does, and he does that pretty well. But it's not something I would do. But it's something you certainly could do, and I dare say some of you. But I'm going to give you a way to do it, to handle the intractable witness. And the way I'm going to give you is a way that I can do it, And if I can do it, anybody can do it, okay? And here it is. You ready for it? You're now toilet training this puppy. I don't know why I keep going back to you as the intractable guy, but here we go. You're toilet training this puppy. Your job is to toilet train the puppy. That means that when you put to the puppy, you say you saw a car, and the puppy says, oh, I was walking out of the bar, and I should have used somebody that knows Murphy's Bar, but that's all right. And it was raining out, and I was trying to get my umbrella up, and I was worried that the eggs were going to fall out my bag, okay? What's just happened? You put a proper question. You saw a car to him, right? And what did the puppy do? The puppy just tinkled on your floor. You cannot allow that to happen. Now, when I was first divining this system, I had some wonderful lawyers at the college, great lawyers that teach there, and I had many of them, and they'd come up to me, and these were my friends, and these were great lawyers. They say, Terry, you're carrying this thing too far. What do you mean I'm carrying it too far? Well, he tinkled, yeah, but the tinkle didn't hurt you. There was nothing in that tinkle that hurt your case. And I'd look at them, and I'd say, no, you don't understand. All tinkle stinks. And you may not allow a puppy to tinkle, because if you allow the puppy to tinkle, pretty soon the puppy's going to be tinkling streams, and pretty soon there's going to be little brown things coming down as well. So anytime the puppy tinkles, you must punish the puppy. He tinkled on me, and I punished him, and I'm going to tell you how I did it so you can do it, okay, to stop him from tinkling. And the rule is, every time the puppy tinkles, you must punish him. Well, what are we going to do to punish him? Am I going to go over and belt him in the head? Or better yet, go over and kick him in the arse? No. This is a look-good system. Remember that? We're into look good. And so I don't want to do that. Thank you, Gilbert and Sullivan. Let the punishment fit the crime. When we talk next week about impeachment, there are two other ways we punish the puppy. They're far more severe, but we're not ready for those two yet. We're just getting the puppy who tinkled. So what do I do to the puppy who tinkled? I'm going to tweak him. I'm going to take a newspaper, roll it up, go over and hit him in the nose with the news. Now, by the way, you understand, you're not really going to take a newspaper. I won't go into that. You're going to take our supposed newspaper, go over and hit the puppy in the nose with the newspaper. That's tweaking him. That's to get him to stop from tinkling, okay? Okay, MacCarthy, how do we tweak the puppy? I will tell you, I will show you. You ready for it? It's very simple. This is not complex, complicated. If I can do it, anybody can do it. I learned this at the National Criminal Defense College in the early years. Who taught it to me? I don't remember. Because he wasn't sober the night he taught it to me, and I wasn't sober the night I learned it. So I don't know who it was that taught it to me, but somebody else taught this to me. I tell you, I didn't dream this up myself. Although I've added a lot of bells and whistles to it, many of them with the help of Josh Carton, who, by the way, you guys are going to have Josh in May. Did you know that? He's coming in here. Do not miss Josh Carton when he comes in. He's not a lawyer. He's what? A communicator. And the best you will ever see. And go and listen to Josh Carton. I just found out yesterday, Charlie and we had lunch together, and he told me Josh is coming out in May. Don't miss Josh, okay? Change your life. Huh? Okay. Now, how do we tweak the puppy? Watch for, let me tell you what it is first, and then I'll demonstrate it and explain what we're doing. You simply repeat word for word what you just said to the puppy, okay? 3 exceptions. When you don't repeat word for word, remind me. That'll close off the day with those 3 exceptions, okay? But here you go. you repeat word for word. So I look at the puppy and I say, you saw a car. I'm going to play both roles. Why? Because I'm going to get out of here for my airplane. But, so you saw a car. Tinkle, 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 tinkle. The puppy just tinkled. So now I look at him and I repeat, you saw a car. Now, how did I do that? This is very important. Number one, I'm using a much slower pace than my usual. The usual pace is going, you notice it was a much slower pace? And I used, here's a good word for you, a rising inflection. I hit the last word. These are important. Psychologically, they're very important that you do it this way. So it goes, and you looked outside, and you saw a car. Tinkle, tinkle, tinkle. You saw a car. And you hit that last word, you see? And it's slower. It's important you do it this way. This is all part of the system, okay? Do it that way. You should have no problem. When he tinkled a few minutes ago, when we were doing the little demonstration, I don't remember what the hell the tinkle was, but he gave me a little tinkle, and I just went back and repeated it that way, and straightens it out right away, and I get the yes. And let me remind you something that young lawyers don't seem to observe real well. Let's put this in the context of a trial. I've got a jury there. Here's my jury. Here's my witness. And I say to him, you saw a car, and he says yes. Remember, you get 1 point over here on that. Yes, okay. Change the facts. You saw a car. Tinkle, tinkle, tinkle. You didn't get your point over here, right? Now I tweak them. You saw a car. Yes. Ding, 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 ding. He goes down 5 points now and pulls you up 5. You're gaining more from that than you're losing. And this is nifty. And remember what I told you about, you're not always going to control the witness. Indeed, you don't always want the total control. You want the witness to fight you. As long as you're right and you can punish the offending puppy, okay? And you see you're going to gain more from that, aren't you? Absolutely you're going to gain more from that. So here we go. So we're going to take, what happens, Terry, when you tweak them and you don't get the result? Well, then you tweak them again. The third time you're going to do it, okay? And that's going to be a little bit different. We're going to do things just a little bit different on the third time. So it goes like this. Yeah, and you saw a car. Tinkle, tinkle, tinkle. You saw a car. Tinkle, tinkle. Third time I'm going to do it. Tweak them again. And now when I do it, you take your hands and put them out here like this. I was teaching a young lady at the college about 12 years ago, teaching her the system. She, by the way, turned out to be a phenomenal trial lawyer. And when she did it the third time, she took her hands and brought them up here like this. And it was the most beautiful thing. Objection, Your Honor, she said. No, shit. But she brought her hands up here this way. And it was gorgeous. So I teach everybody. I told you learn so much from people you work with and teach. She brought her hands up here. So it's going to be the third time you're going to use your hands. And now you're going to do something I told you will not do normally. But I told you there would be one exception, and I told you we'd cover that exception at the very end, right? And here it is. I told you never to use the name of a witness or an honorific. Remember that? This is the time for the exception. And now we're going to use the name. And now the third time I'm tweaking this tinkling puppy, it's going to be with the hands out, and it's going to be Mr. Jones, you saw a car. And you see it? Now stop and translate this into your trial. Everything you've said to this witness up till now in the main has been answered yes, yes, yes. The jury knows the dipshits, dipshit saw a car, right? They know that, okay? And this guy is going down, down, down deep because the jury says the idiot saw a car. Everything this lawyer says is right. He saw the car. And now you got the hands and you use the Mr. Jones. It's the only time you refer to a person by name is when you're tweaking him the third time. Mr. Jones, you're pleading with him. Would you just tell us the truth and let us move on? You saw. And by the way, if he finally gives you yes, then you've destroyed this witness. In the minds of the jury, if he had given you the yes right at the beginning, 1 point. Now you're going to get 15 points from this little. Do you see it? Do you see the effect? And that's what we're working on. We're working on the effect that these witnesses are going to have on the jurors, okay? Now, oh yeah, so I can get you out of here and me out of here. By the way, I love Chicago. Why? Among other reasons, I go to the airport in Chicago and I hop on a plane, a United plane that treats me well, and they fly me to wherever I want to go, Tampa. Well, now I want to go to Charleston, South Carolina. Well, number one, I can't take a United plane. I got to go in some smaller airlines, and will they take me to Charleston? No. They're going to take me up to North Carolina to get down to South Carolina, okay? So anyway, I don't like that, but that's beside the point. Here we go. 3 exceptions, okay? Well, exceptions, times you don't tweak the witness, okay? Times you don't tweak the witness. What are they? Here you go. Number 1, when you're wrong the first time. By the way, I don't care how good each and all of us are, we will, from time to time, make mistakes. We're mortal, okay? We make mistakes. And so, I've got the witness on the stand. Let's swing over here. We'll pick up a different witness. It's a non-speaking part. Don't worry about it. But in any event, I got the witness on the stand. I say to the witness, you saw a car. Yes. Blue. And the witness says, no, counsel. It was light blue. Okay. Now, I look at my notes. And lo and behold, guess what color the car was? Light blue. He is right, okay? So he's right. What am I going to do now? Argue, bicker, and quarrel with him? No, God, we definitely won't allow that to ever happen. Yeah, it was blue. No, it's like, and besides, he's right. What the hell am I going to do? I'll look like a fool if I argue, bicker, or quarrel with him. So how do you handle this? Well, here it pays to be Irish. Why? Because we Irish never do anything wrong, you see. We always have a scapegoat for our supposed errors in judgment or whatever. And if you don't believe me, ask my wife about that. But in any event, we don't make mistakes. So, and here's where it pays to be, fast on your feet as a trial lawyer. So it will go down something like this. I can't do all the possible situations and you run into, but watch it just to get an idea. You saw a car. I'll play both parts. It's faster, but at least I'm looking at you. You saw a car. Yes. Blue. No, counsel, it was light blue. Oh my God, you now know it was light blue. Okay. There was blue in the car. Well, yes, but it was a light blue. Yes. In other words, I was right all along. Just let me go along. And that's the way a good Irishman would do it, and escape it, okay? Second time you don't repeat word for word is when you do a perfect one-word cross. Okay, yeah. You saw a car. Yes. Green. Tinkle, tinkle, tinkle. It's not physically impossible, but it is practically impossible to repeat green slowly with a rising inflection and demonstrate any elegance in doing so, right? It comes out green. Yeah, we don't like that. So when you've used a perfect one-word cross, what are you going to do? You're going to add a couple of words you saw, I forget where I'm at, but you saw a car, yes. Green, tinkle, tinkle, tinkle. The car was green. You see, you've added the words. And the third thing in difference is when you're tweaking the third time, the hands are going to be out here, and it's going to be Mr. Jones, okay? And you've got it. And that is, believe it or not, cross-examination. God, I mean it sincerely. I'm telling everybody, I have enjoyed you people so much. I really have. And I wish you all well as trial lawyers. I envy the education you're getting here at Stetson. You don't know how fortunate you are to have people like Charlie Rose. I told you, though, biggest problem you got with Charlie is you got to keep him sober. But if you keep him sober, and the people you've got, your dean is, I'm so impressed with the dean. Well, Ellen, obviously, is a dear, longtime friend of mine, and I've known her through the National Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. You've got some precious, well, Lee, who was in here the first day with us, you've got some precious people here, and I wish you all well. So we finished, and I don't
Thank you
know
very much.
who we get to turn that off.
Stan the man.
Stan the anti-man.
Oh, that's Stan the man, right, yeah. Now, if you got, real quickly, though, I'm running out the door, any questions that you might have of me? Real quick ones, I'd answer. If there's something that's, before I look at my pictures of Russia.
You have an email?
Pardon me?
Your email address?
Well, yeah, you know what? I tell you what. Professor Rose will have everything on me. I don't have a card because I'm never trying to pick up clients. So I don't have cards. But I'll see you next week, won't I? We're going to go into the weapons of mass destruction.
Does he have the outline also?
If he doesn't, he does. But if he doesn't, he will. Who's